Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So here we have it. This is my unboxing and first impressions of the BOOX Note Max. Let's go ahead and dive in. All right, everybody. So as many of you know, I am an academic by training. I've got a long and kind of eclectic past in all of the different things that I've done over the years. But one thing that's been a constant is that I really enjoy writing. I enjoy reading, I enjoy writing, and I enjoy taking notes. The Supernote platform has been my go-to for note-taking needs. It was the first device I had with the A5X, and I've loved it all the way through. I've been branching out and doing more with different devices here recently, but I've always, the one limitation on the A5X and the Manta, the A5X2, has been that the size wasn't quite as large as a traditional paper notebook. So that traditional paper notebook, that legal pad that I would always carry with me, doesn't really matter as much, I found out, in taking notes. Taking notes on the daily, reading different PDFs, reading and consuming information. That 10.3 or 10.65-inch dimension actually works really well for that. Have not really had many problems at all. However, when it comes to the other side of my work, which is marking up academic papers, marking up PDFs, reading technical PDFs, and then wanting to write things in the margins, that's where you really start to run into limitations, even on a 10.3 and a 10.65-inch device. Yes, I can turn it to landscape and that works really well, but it's still not the same. You have a little bit more friction because you're having to rotate the device, then you're having to know where you're at on the split screen. So it causes a little bit of trouble, and I'll show that at some point. But what I was hoping that Supernote would come out with was an A4 size device, which is on their roadmap. But I also was very interested in BOOX Note Max, primarily because between the Go 10.3 and the Note Max, to me, this is BOOX's answer not only to something like the Remarkable, but also like the Supernote. There's no front light. It's meant to be as close as you can get to pen on paper, and it's geared towards that type of workflow. And now the thing with the Note Max, and when we get into the full review, because I have been using it a few days, and you're going to see the unboxing right after this, but I wanted you to actually see the device as well in this opening. One thing's going to be battery life. The Note Max does have BSR, which is that BOOX Super Refresh technology. And I am not getting the type of battery life out of this device, at least right now, that I'm getting out of something like the Supernote Manta, and I would assume the Go 10.3. I'm getting roughly 2.5 to 3 days out of this, so it's not going to make it through a whole work week. However, what this device promises is the ability to replicate a workflow that I always had when it came to printing out and marking up papers, with the added benefit of digital enhancement, embedding comments in PDFs, things of that nature. And the power of the Neo reader really makes that seem like it could be a capable thing. So we're going to look at that. We're going to unbox this thing. We're going to take a look at it really quickly, and I'm going to set up parts of it, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to show you a little bit about the actual PDF experience and what that looks like in if you were to grade a paper. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump into it, and I will see you here in just a minute. Here we are with the BOOX Note Max, and I want to just go through, I won't spend a ton of time on the unboxing itself, but wanted to show you my first impressions on this device and kind of my reaction to something of this size. So first thing is they were kind enough to send me the magnetic case. We'll go ahead and open that really quickly. I am a big fan of that case. From what I've seen, it's a very nice case. And the keyboard case, not so much from what I've seen. There are some concerns about, especially when you're talking about how some of the components of that keyboard case come in contact with the screen. and I really don't want to take that risk. Plus, I may be getting at some point a new device to test that will allow me to treat this more like a traditional typewriter. But this is the standard case. I actually like it quite a bit. It's magnetic. I like the black on it with the kind of the cloth insert. Really nice. They did throw nibs and uh, a nib removal tool in the actual packaging. It was just a plain brown box, so I didn't keep that out, but wanted to show you kind of what this experience was like with the rest of it. So let's go ahead while we're here and open up the box. We will see got here. Go ahead and try to be as careful as I can. Just rip this open. BOOX always has nice packaging. They do the plastic when it comes to the outer covering. Uh, quite frankly, I don't know why they don't just leave it in the box itself. I'm a big fan of sustainable packaging, but I understand that they want to make a good presentation, so that's absolutely fine. To me, this sleeve here would be enough for that. So we'll go ahead and pull it out of the sleeve. And I do have to admit, I'm pretty excited about this. I've been wanting a device of this size for quite a while. And obviously, BOOX is one of the only ones, and really the only one as far as I'm concerned, to do this yet. I know Quaderno has a 13.3 inch. I know that there's the Tab XC, which is a color version of a BOOX device in 13.3 inches. But this is, to me, the ultimate current black and white e-ink device in this form factor. Go ahead and take this out of the box. And I think all we're going to have in here, go ahead and pull this up and take a look at it. Got my warranty card, which I will leave over there. Let's go ahead and open this up. This will probably, I would guess, be my stylus. Oh, I might have opened that from the wrong end. Yep, and I did. So we'll go ahead and pull this out. This is your BOOX stylus. It looks like the same stylus that I have before, only in white. So that's the contents of the box. Obviously, this is going to be your USB-C to A cable for charging and connections. Put that out of the way, and then let's go ahead and take a look at the stylus. Like I said, I believe this is just the regular pen. I don't think that this is the premium pen, which, if those of you who've watched my channel before, you know I actually like the stylus. I know a lot of people don't like the BOOX stylus, and they talk about using ceramic nibs on this. Personally, I trust the companies for the most part to send you a stylus that matches the device. And this is weighted very well and it works very well. It doesn't have an eraser, which really doesn't bother me. I do find that on some devices that does bother me, but on this one, not so much. I think that's in large part because of the BOOX Scribble Erase. But let's go ahead and take off this paper and we will get this device out. And I will tell you, that is amazing as far as the size. The size is stunning when you're actually looking at this device live. And not just that, just the clarity. This black and white here, I don't believe the camera is quite going to be doing this justice. It is 1080p, it is at 60 frames per second, but I'm just not sure that it's going to do it justice in the way it actually looks. It's absolutely stunning in person to see this device. So let's go ahead and take a look at the device as a whole here. I can't even hardly keep it all on camera because it's so large and I'm all the way zoomed out here. It's got the stripe along the back. It is smooth here. I know a lot of people have talked about that. The Go 10.3 has kind of a rough texture to keep it from slipping. This doesn't have that, but it does have the antenna array. It's got speakers, got your power port here, and it looks like I just accidentally turned it on because your power button is here. So this actually is your charging port. This here is your power button. And it looks like I said I just accidentally turned it on. So it's going to go ahead and go through its startup procedure. What's nice is once I log into my Onyx account here in a little bit, I should be able to just have all of the functionality, all of my notes should sync over and be able to take care of that. And I will go ahead and say English. Feels very responsive right now. So it's saying hello. And then the user agreement, privacy policy, I've already accepted those on the other device. And then here, obviously, it's got my time zone correct, set automatically. It's got the date correct, but no, it doesn't have the date correct. Date format for me. Well, I guess it's not going to let me adjust that. I guess it's because it's automatic. I would have liked to have had it be day, month, year, which is a US thing, but that's okay. Auto sleep set for 5 minutes. I will probably change that to 30. Might as well go ahead and do it right now. Auto power off. I usually set this on all my devices to 8 hours. If I haven't used it by 8 hours, I'm probably not going to use it for that day. So a lot of times they go to sleep overnight. And then here it's going to walk me through the navigation bar or the bottom gestures. I'm used to the gestures, so I'm going to actually leave that. And I'm used to my gestures here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn those on so that I can have my gestures. And they're on both sides there. And now we're going to go ahead and it's going to load. Now you're going to notice I'm going to have to do a bunch of configuration on this, and I will do that offline, basically to make it look like I currently have the Note Air 4C set up. But as soon as I get that done, then I will be ready to go and show you a little bit of a demo. So we will pop back over in just a little while. I've gotten this set up a little bit. I haven't gone through the entire setup process. As you all know, BOOX has a long setup process. But I do want to show you kind of the first impressions for what I would use this device for and the things that are most important to me. And one of them is annotations. So I've had the device a few days and I've been working with it and I've been revising a student paper. There's no student identification information on here, so you won't be able to tell who this student is. I wanted to protect privacy, but at the same time, I also wanted to show you just how powerful this platform is. Now, on the Supernote platform, you all know I have a high opinion of the way it annotates, the way it embeds comments, but I have found that my workflow here with the BOOX platform is almost as good. It doesn't have a digesting type feature, but it does have some similar features. But the biggest thing about this particular device is the size. I can't even overstate how much better it is to annotate on this size of a device. So even if, again, I love the Supernote tools and platforms, and I think once they come out with this size of device, it will be a very close call on what you should get, because this has so many functions, the same as the Supernote does, but the size just wins right now. If you're an academic who is marking up papers, or if you are a teacher who is marking up papers, this hands down is the best device, in my estimation, just in the few days of using it, that you could get. Yes, could palm rejection be improved? Absolutely. Does it really? Do you have to make sure you're turning off your gestures? Yes, because otherwise it's going to hop around on you and skip around on you. But as far as just the tool set and being able to mark up these papers and show students what they need to do, this is a powerhouse, because you also get your colors. So even though all of this is black and white, and I used black and white to do these markups, the color itself I got to pick. So it's blue. I'm not a big fan of the red pen. I think that's just aggressive and it doesn't make students feel valued. It's just not something I do. Now, Supernote, to be fair, does black, red, and blue on export. So even though Yeah, I prefer blue. You could export in a multitude of colors here with the Books product. Even though you're doing it in black and white, you can export in all of those different colors that you would find on the Note Air 4C, for example. And the student is going to see those colors. So that is really interesting. You can also change the colors of the highlights. I accidentally at one point had these set to black, so it actually blacked out the text. It wasn't a huge deal, but it caused a little bit of confusion. But what's really cool here is this does a similar functionality to the Supernote in that when you select your text, it's not quite as easy to use, and you get tons of options here. So you can set your color, you can do AI on it, you can you can look at all the tools, and we'll go into that more in depth when we get there. You can have it read it to you. This is where the power of the Neo Reader really shows itself. But the big thing I want to kind of talk about here is, yes, you can do a simple highlight. You can also do the annotation, and that's this button here. And then you'll see that I put in some different information here, telling the student to remember some specific things. Now, when they open this, unlike Supernote, well, actually, this feature is exactly like Supernote. When they go to open this, then it is going to be an embedded comment in Adobe. So automatically, when they go to open this, they're going to see on the right-hand side all of the comments that have been embedded in the document. So when they click on those highlights, they're going to see those embedded comments. They're going to pop right up. What's interesting about this, though, is I don't have to save a separate, I don't have to export this into a separate file. I don't have to go through an extra step. All of these handwritten annotations are immediately embedded into the PDF. So there's no separate export. When I go to save this, I can save it wherever I want to, and it automatically combines the files. So I don't have to go export, have it send to an export folder, and then take it from there and move it somewhere else. From here, wherever I save this file, it's going to automatically export that. And I hope that makes sense. So I don't want to do that right now because I don't want to show you obviously any identifying information for the student, but the idea being that, that's one less step of friction for me as the person who's doing this. Now, one thing I did have to do is this came through as a PDF image, so I did have to OCR it. But once I did, then all of my text became selectable, and that's how I've gotten all of these highlights in. And if you look, as I go through, I can make all of these notes in the margins. Now, what I haven't figured out quite how to do yet, and of course, when I do the in-depth review, you'll see more information here about how to shrink maybe the margins because these were very slim margins, but there was still good line spacing so I could add comments in and tell the student what I needed to have happen, and then also embed comments as well. So a really good fluid experience from a user perspective on how to add in all of these different components. So I just wanted to show that really quickly. This is, again, part of those quick first impressions. This was a quick unboxing, quick first impressions, but this is by far the most pleasurable experience I've had in marking up a document, a paper, specifically a paper, on any device, because of the fact that the size lends itself to my normal workflow if I were to print these out and mark them up, with the added functionality of being able to embed comments, having it in a digital format, being able to blend both the handwritten and the text itself. Really, really powerful. So with all that said, let's go ahead and jump back over. We'll close out and we will talk about what's up next. Welcome back. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me. This is a wild ride. I will be honest with you. The BOOX Note Max is a phenomenal device at first glance. So these are early impressions. I haven't used it long term. I've taken the time. I've set up parts of it. It's going to take me a little while, probably a couple of days within the next week, to get everything switched. I think one really good piece of advice for books would be, since you're using Android and since you're using similar OSs, although let's be fair, the OSs are a little all over the place. So I've got 4.1 on my BOOX Note Air 4C, I've got 4.0 on here, and they're not unified yet. But things like settings, things like your apps, things that are run through Google Play, it would be really cool if when I open this device up, I could just go ahead and sync all of that. Now, once I signed into Google Play, it did give me the option to download some of my most frequently used apps, and that helped. But some kind of unified experience, some kind of switch feature like Samsung has, that allows me to bring over my groups, for example, or the app icon groups, just ways to make that friction a little less, reducing that. And your settings. I'm going to have to go through and configure all of my toolbars again, probably side by side with my Note Air 4C, and they're not quite the same experience, so there may be some things that are different, but I'm going to want to configure that and try to get it as close as I can so that my experience is as seamless as possible. So for that, that's going to be a little bit harder. But this thing, for the academic use case that I've been using it for, and I didn't show in this video the split screen because that had some stuff on it that was for work, and I used it in that context. But I will tell you, the split screen is all it's cracked up to be. Aaron at 2530 Media has talked about the split screen function on the Go 10.3 and how useful he finds that. Voya over My Deep Guide has talked about using split screen on this particular device, the Note Max, and it's phenomenal. And and Kit, I believe, also has talked about the split screen and how useful that is. I used it side by side with a PDF that had different information on it to take notes. And I didn't use an actual book note. What I used instead was, and it was a one-page PDF document, but I just split that out and I had one screen on the side for my notes as a secondary page. So I added a page and then was able to take notes. What it did, unfortunately, then was blow my text way up, but that's just the learning curve on a device like this. But it really was amazing to be able to do that on this size of a device. Now, I'm already kind of gushing about how easy it was, and you saw some of the examples of how I would mark up a paper. I will tell you that portability on this is not what I thought it would be. I didn't expect it to be as heavy as it is, and a lot of that is the case. So if I take this out of the case, it's very light. I mean, almost as light as the Manta. However, when you put it in the case, it's actually still lighter than the Note Air 4C, believe it or not. But primarily that's because this case is very heavy on the back side, which is holding the device with the magnets, but has a very light connection on the front side with the magnet, if that makes sense. And so it's not as heavy as you would think it would be, but it's still not light. And I don't want people to think that it would be. It's definitely not light it's definitely not as light as a pad of paper. So if you were taking a pad of paper with you somewhere, don't expect this to be that light. It's not as light as a nice folio like I used to walk around with. It's a little heavy, not as heavy as a laptop, but a little bit heavy. And I think, too, one thing that is a frustration point, as much as I'm not a huge fan of the BOOX flap on the Note Air 4C, there's nothing on this device. And the magnetics just will not cut it if you're putting it in a bag. If you're putting it in a bag, just expect to hunt around for that pin after you get where you're going. It's just a limitation of the device. But the folio itself is very nice. It's very clean. It's very easy to use. I'm interested to start using this with a Bluetooth keyboard and see what the typing experience is like. Overall, though, first impressions of this device are very good. The ghosting is as advertised, not great. I'm hoping when they roll the 4.1 version of the software out to this device that will help with that. And really, it depends somewhat on the refresh modes you're in. But even in the regular Notes app, there's a lot of ghosting left over, a lot of remnants. Now, you can easily set to swipe to refresh. You can use your nav ball to refresh. You can do a lot of things to mitigate that. But it's still something you're going to have to work through. And I think that one thing to be very aware of is that is going to be a limitation with the device. But overall, very good, favorable impersonations. Thank you again to Books for sending this out. Again, they are not sponsoring this. They have not said anything to me about returning the device, but also they have no control over the content whatsoever. And they know that I tend to do long-term reviews. They have not seen this before it has gone out. And thank you to them for sending it out, especially with the upcoming semester. I'm going to really be able to put this through its paces with papers upon papers and grading those and just seeing how seamless that workflow can be. Because again, that's not going to replace my note taking, I think, as much, which is what I do on my Supernote device, and then run that through Obsidian to do the recognition. Because Books just isn't there yet for me to be able to get those notes seamlessly into Obsidian the way that I need to do that. But Supernote really isn't as seamless in the academic sense of using a paper because of those extra steps of having to export to combine the file and then move it into another folder to then be able to share it with the student. From here, all I have to do is hit save and save it to my location, and all of those comments, all of those handwritten annotations and highlights are in the document. And it's really seamless. And you can also add pages natively in a PDF. Now, Supernote's constantly innovating, but they're not there yet. So again, stick with me, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, like if you haven't liked. If you've been here several times, about 70% of my audience, and you've watched my content, but you haven't hit that subscribe button, please do so. It helps the channel a ton, lets me know you're interested, and it'll notify you again when I have new information coming up. Thank you to all of my patrons, all of my subscribers, all of my YouTube insiders. You will see information scrolling here with all of you who have gone that extra mile and supported me over this journey. And until next time, thank you all so much. Keep on moving forward, and we will talk to you soon. Have a great day. Bye now.